Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. Yeah, the cold sort of came. I don't think it's gone yet, but what can come and doesn't leave on its own are leaks. If you go around your home or your office, you notice a spot here, a spot there. Hopefully it's nothing. Believe me, my wife told me that 4 months, and my very not listening self fought her tooth and nail until finally we had Water Cleanup of Florida come out and say, yep, you have an issue. Well, because I had waited, it wasn't a leak anymore. It had gone to full-on water damage. You don't want that. Stop those leaks before they start. Stop those leaks at the beginning. Water Cleanup of Florida will do that for you. Just call this number, 954-579-0356. With over 60 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, their entire team, they will not only find the leaks, find the issues, and solve it quickly, but because they have licensed, certified, insured contractors on staff, they'll make it look brand new. And I'm telling you, just getting anything fixed is a win. But if you can get it fixed and look at the wall and not find where it happened, that's amazing. Water Cleanup of Florida will do that for you. 954-579-0356. Check out their website, WCUFL.com. Check them out on the socials. That's where we all live, right? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Water Cleanup FL. And if you don't trust me, you should, because I have worked with them. They did an amazing job. But you want more information into what they've done with clients, Google, that's where we go, right? With over 75-star reviews, Water Cleanup Florida is your place to go. 954-579-0356. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. The Miami Dolphins are going to need some guts these next 2 weeks, not only coming off a 4-game losing streak, but they need to win to get into the NFL playoffs. Plus, we don't know what's going on with Tua. Concussion protocol, concussion, no concussion. Who's playing? Chris Perkins, Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist, joined us today to talk about the Tua situation, the Dolphins situation, and what it looks like for them going forward right here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
I bet if you go back to his elementary school yearbook, if they had one, not only was the editor and publisher, but he probably made the statement, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to be the #1 featured guy on the Miami Dolphins beat after a sensational career with a very diverse background in various sports coverage aspects. What with the Sun Sentinel and many other newspapers, the great Chris Perkins joins us here on the show. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Defo, at my age, I think my yearbook was done with a piece of granite and a chisel, right? That's how far back my yearbook goes.
I always thought that, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you were a fan of Dragnet, Jack Webb. I mean,
Yeah.
just give me the facts. But the show was produced by a thing called Mark 7 Productions, which they were very prominent. And that was their logo at the end.
Yeah.
They had Mark 7 chiseled in rock.
And
I thought, that's kind of the primitive approach that we're taking to what it is
they
that
printed
we're
my
doing.
yearbook. Those are the guys. That's the ones. Yeah.
All right, in the throes of a fork, and Chris, of course, for the people that very few people would be unfamiliar with Chris Perkins and his work, because he's been on a national stage as well with many of his enterprises, but covering the Dolphins as their primary beat writer now for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And did you picture yourself in the throes, I mean, having to analyze the throes of a 4-game losing streak back when the Dolphins were 8-3? Did that look like it was a distinct possibility?
No. The 3-game losing streak to me was kind of an outside shot. I thought they were going to get one of those games, the 2 California games and the Buffalo. I thought they'd get one of those Californias, probably the Chargers game. And when
Everybody
they
thought
didn't do that, yeah, that was a bad sign. But this loss, this Green Bay loss, Defo, granted, you're facing Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame quarterback, but this is a losing team coming into your house, where you had won 11 of the past 12 games. And this is now the Dolphins' first 0 for December since 1993. And we remember that year, right? They were 9-2. They lose the last 5. The last game they won was that Leon Lett game against Dallas in the snow. And they lose 5 straight and they miss the playoffs. You people who are still on for 8 and a hook, I think you're okay. I think you're okay. I say that every week. I've been saying that for the last month.
I'm gargling with Dilaudid. What are you talking about? 8-hook. Well, I believe they beat the Jets, but
I hope they won before that.
Who knows what happens if they go down in New England? No, if they lose in New England and beat the Jets, do they make the postseason? I want to say yes to that.
Well, they can. Yeah, they can, but it's going to be a lot tougher. They're going to need a little bit of help. So,
okay.
They need to win this game. They needed to win the last game, the Green Bay game. But basically, it was a race to get to 10 victories. Now you can get in at 9. If they win this week and then the Jets lose at Seattle or to Seattle, I can't remember where they are. Okay. Then the Dolphins are in, so you could get in with 9 wins, but the 10-win path is more desirable because you won't be limping in at 9 wins. You'll be kind of shooting in with back-to-back victories at 10.
I'm thinking the Dolphins do get that help. That game is in Seattle with the New York Jets, and for some reason, the Jets are favored by 2 points in that game. What would be? Why would you think that? I know they're starting Mike White, and that they love him in New York. How is that possible that the Jets would be favored if they're on the road against the Seahawks?
Yeah, I don't know. Seahawks are kind of leaking a little bit of oil here.
Yeah.
The Jets with their quarterback problems, that's that. By the way, Broward County's Mike White, right? To university school. So he's a local product. And we could get 2 locals in the finale with Teddy Bridgewater and Mike White if things continue the way they are with Tua. Ugh.
Miramar versus University. It'd be like
exactly.
going back to the old high school beat that we were on.
That's it.
Yeah. Now what's the story with Tua? Because now that I've seen the thing a few times, you covered a lot of boxing, Chris. You'd see a guy and his head would hit the canvas, and you're thinking that shot to the jaw was one thing, but the bouncing of the head off the canvas, which is kind of how these concussions have occurred or been incurred by Tua Tagovailoa. But he plays the second half and has no complaint. Now, sure, there could be a delayed reaction to something like that, where you don't realize that you're hurt at the time, and later on, all of a sudden your head is throbbing. Which I guess he started to have headaches. So what was the story there?
Well, first of all, hello to Mike Mayo on the text line, and hello to Scott, because Scott's always out there on the text line. But the deal, I don't know the deal with Tua. He's a small quarterback. Yep. But, the way that he's fallen down, that the hit from Matt Milano from Buffalo wasn't an especially vicious hit. Tua just fell and hit his head. Same thing against Cincinnati with Josh Tupou, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And then with this tackle, like none of them have been like vicious blindside hits where Tua was violently thrown to the ground. They've just been kind of typical tackles that a quarterback takes. And that's really what disturbs you. And that's what kind of bugs you a little bit. From Tua personally, I'm sure it disturbs him because he's wondering, why is this happening? This never happened in college or the NFL. He was injury prone, but not the head hitting the ground. And then if you're the Dolphins, obviously, can you extend this guy's contract? Like this seems like a thing that it's a higher risk than somebody blowing out their knee again. This is a thing that, and also let's look at it like this. Strategically, if Tua is out there and knowing his concussion history, his head injury history, the quarterback draw off the table, the quarterback scramble off the table, the quarterback sneak on 4th and 1 off the table. And so strategically, if you're the Dolphins, are you at a disadvantage playing Tua moving forward? If I'm a defense, I'm not scared of this guy running. His career could be on the line. And so, those are the types of things that you have to think about. Obviously, Tua as a father and a person is number one. But strategically, if you're the Dolphins, can you extend this guy's contract? And are you at a strategic disadvantage when he's on the field from the standpoint the other team knows Tua isn't and can't run with the ball?
Perk, as of yet, I haven't seen anywhere where they have officially said he had a concussion. People assume the concussion protocol. Oh, there it is. No, the Dolphins have been very clear in saying, we are not sure. We didn't hide anything. No one knew anything was wrong except for that one guy who took the video from his couch. Like, they are on him. He's been on it. The minute he felt anything, he went to them. The minute he went to them, they went and put him right in. So they've done everything they're supposed to do. They've even gone above and beyond in a way a lot of people haven't. But to this point, I still haven't seen anyone say he had a concussion. And I feel like that's exactly what they're waiting for. What is the word on that? Will we ever get word that he officially? Because that first time, we still haven't gotten that when what was it? Not the Bengals. What was it? The Bills
Bills.
When he walked weird and they did Zapruder-like thing to look at the walk. Like, they never said he officially had a concussion. Like, have they officially said he has a concussion? Will they? Will we hear that?
If he has a concussion, they will officially say that he has a concussion. But at this point, Lubie, I think that's almost beside the point. We're kind of just looking at head trauma here as opposed to a diagnosed concussion. And with head trauma, is he going to be forced into concussion protocol? And professionally, if you're the Dolphins, are you going to be losing this guy for 4 games a year while he's in concussion protocol, whether he has a concussion or not? Yeah. That seems to be a very real risk. And again, these aren't vicious hits. These are pretty much typical tackles that a quarterback is going to take in the course of a game. So, can you extend this guy's contract? Can you? And look, here's the other deal on the Dolphins, that we know that they've pretty much opened a 2 or 3 year championship window because you acquired Tyreek, you acquired Teron Armstead, you acquired Bradley Chubb, you used first round picks. Well, you lost 1 first round pick, but you used first round picks. So your means of getting a new quarterback are fairly limited in the next couple of years. So you're almost married to Tua at this point. And so now what do? You're kind of stuck. You've got to kind of figure a way around this thing.
I always think, because it's such a vague, gray area, what the impact of a concussion is, and, what the possible consequences would be of sending a guy out there who is still concussed, and, how it's going to impact the guy's life overall. And I remember I happened to be watching the race where Dale Earnhardt was killed. And if you saw the crash, it was weird because it didn't look like much. You'll see these guys get involved in fiery crashes where the car rolls over 17 times and then hits a wall and ends up in the stands. Guy gets up and walks away, waves to the crowd. And I remember seeing this sort of marginal incident. And I think the commentator was one of the wall trips. And he said, those are the kind of crashes where you have significant consequences, because it doesn't look like much, but those are the kind that are dangerous. And sure enough, the guy checked out. And I'm thinking, you can't marginalize any level of concussion if there's fear that this is, part of the problem or a consequence of getting hit like Tua has, where his head keeps landing on the grass and hitting and bouncing up. Because, we just don't know. I mean, those may be the worst in terms of, potentially developing CTE and maybe, making the guy lean towards, saying, hey, maybe this isn't my game. The other thing you mentioned, too, which is really interesting to me, was because I thought about this a couple of times now in recent weeks, where, the strategic disadvantage you have when you have a quarterback that doesn't really take off and run a lot. Now, we thought when drafted that this was going to be one of his key characteristics, was that he presented more of a dual threat than a lot of guys that don't pass the ball as accurately as he does, the Kyler Murray types or whatever. And yet, if you look at these big strapping quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, they're all big threats when they take off and run. And they run a lot of design plays for these guys to just, go ahead and act like they're Larry Zonka.
Yeah. And so you do wonder. And again, I feel like I have to keep saying, Tua and his life are number one. We know that. But strategically, I mean, that's why we're talking about Tua, right? Because he's the Dolphins quarterback and they have to plan for the future, really with the future starting, with the Patriots game and then going beyond. So, Tua presents a lot of unforeseen problems. And when he came out of Alabama and he had the hip injury, and you were kind of thinking, all right, this guy is injury prone, but nobody had head trauma on the list, and you might have thought shoulder, elbow, the hip, blah, blah, blah. But this is just a totally different animal. And so it just seems so wildly unpredictable. And look, there might have been a precedent set last week from the standpoint of the guy with the, as Lubie said, the guy sitting on his couch taking the video. You remember how in golf people would send in videos from home all the time, and guys are having strokes erased. I mean, who knows what happens with Tua going forward with people putting videos out there? Hey, his head hit the ground, and again, this is the Dolphins and the future. This is head trauma. This isn't necessarily being diagnosed with a concussion. Who knows how this might influence the spotter moving forward when Tua is on the field? So, unfortunately, this opens up a lot of doors, or potentially opens up a lot of doors for Tua and the Dolphins as far as, can we play this guy? Can we trust that he's going to remain on the field? Even if you extend his contract and put in team loopholes that you can get out of the contract after so many years or this reason, you're still setting the team back. So now what? You go to Skylar Thompson as your starter or Teddy Bridgewater? Like, the whole thing kind of starts over again. So it's a very delicate situation. Fortunately, neither the Dolphins nor Tua needs an answer today, but we're all looking forward. And right now, it's not very favorable for Tua or the Dolphins as we sit right now.
Well, and speaking of right now, it's not Monday. Today's Wednesday. They have to start announcing health, announcing lineups, announcing what's going on this weekend. This is a huge game, as you guys were just talking about. What is the sense you're getting? Because Bridgewater got majority of first team snaps yesterday. Tua's in protocol now, so he can't do anything right now. You need a certain amount of time to get out there and play. That's what happened before. It was even when he was sort of cleared, he still couldn't play because he couldn't get out there. What is the sense you're getting for this weekend?
My sense is Teddy Bridgewater gets the start this week. And today is going to be their first full practice. Monday, they came in and watched video. Yesterday was the day off. Today is going to be the first full practice. They said that they had planned for Teddy to get the majority of the first team snaps. I think that's going to happen. Very interesting. Teddy last week was his first week back in a while. He had been sidelined with the knee injury, and Skylar Thompson had been the backup quarterback for I don't know, the previous 3 or 4 games, whatever it was. So I don't know if Teddy has any rust to knock off, but I will say this, and shout out to Jim Sarney, who's also on the text line there. The games that those quarterbacks, Teddy and Skylar, started or that they played, the Dolphins did have a chance in the fourth quarter in 2 of those. Cincinnati game, the Dolphins lose 27-15, but they led 15-14 going into the fourth quarter. Tua goes out at halftime. Yep. Xavier Howard goes out in the fourth quarter, and then Joe Burrow goes crazy. They score 13 fourth quarter points, and they win. The Jets game was a disaster. They lose 40-17, but the Minnesota game that Teddy Bridgewater started, and by the way, that Jets game, you remember Teddy started, he got knocked out on the first play, Sauce Gardner, then Skylar comes in. Skylar starts, the Minnesota game, Teddy finishes it up, but you remember they were down 16-10 in the fourth quarter against Minnesota and driving. Yep. Jalen Waddle fumbles at the 14, and so then Minnesota takes that and goes back the other way, and they win 24-16. So the Dolphins were in it, and to me, if you're the 14th, the backup quarterback, what you do is you keep the team in the game until the fourth quarter, right? And then it's up to Xavier Howard and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike McDaniel and all these people to deliver the victory. So to me, whoever starts this week as the backup quarterback, keep the Dolphins in the game till the fourth quarter and let your high-priced, the other guys take you home to the victory and to the playoffs.
Chris Perkins, South Florida Sun-Sentinel. He's the Dolphins beat writer, and one more thing on the Dolphins, and I want to move on to a couple of other things that are happening in the National Football League. But and I guess it's a 2-part question here. You mentioned too, and they have to decide whether to make a commitment to the guy, because, and based somewhat on whether or not they consider him injury prone and how severe these concussions are, and how that equates out to possible inhibiting his play in the future, or possibly inhibiting his play in the future. But on the merits of what we've seen him do, would you be inclined to extend his contract for another 4 years for $130 million? And then number two is Mike McDaniel becoming bizarrely more existential in his conversations about what happened during the game as the losing streak is mounted. I mean, where, now you almost need an interpreter to figure out what this guy is saying. What do you think? I mean, what's going on there with that dynamic? I mean, would you, if you were Chris Greer right now and it was a, okay, take it or leave it situation today, would you have a contract extension on the table for Tua, not based on physicality? Let's say that was fine, but based on his play. And then McDaniel, I mean, what do we think of him at this stage of the season?
Well, with Tua, with Tua, the Dolphins have the option of the 5th-year extension, and then you can extend his contract. Actually, you could go 5th-year extension, franchise tag, and then the extension. That's kind of what
that would be the route.
Is going through now. But
he's been good enough to do that.
To answer your question, no, I would not extend him right now because of the injury thing. And performance-wise, yes, I would have, because this seems to be you kind of know that Tua is limited. He doesn't have that big arm like Justin Herbert, but you can work with him. You could win a championship with him, I think. As long now that's provided you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Mike McDaniel and some creativity around him. You could work with Tua and possibly win a championship, but. So based on performance before this, Defo, I probably would have definitely had the 5th-year extension on the table. I don't know about the full contract, the full 5-year thing, but I would have extended him to the 5th year. As far as McDaniel, man, I will say this. This is a very serious situation with the Tua head injury. But before this, McDaniel was still joking around during the 3-game losing streak. And that was something that he did earlier in the season, even though the stakes are a lot more grave in December. So I credit Mike McDaniel for still being Mike McDaniel, for still being true to himself. He hasn't changed and gotten snippy and started, getting snippy with reporters and all that. He's still joking around. Now, things have gotten a little more serious. And I'll say this, Defo, as teams have figured out this offense, stuff is not as funny with McDaniel, right? And so he has changed from that standpoint. Because look, and this week, we know that Bill Belichick takes something away from your offense. And increasingly during this losing streak, I think teams have thought, you know what? This is a 2-trick pony offense. If we can sit on Tyreek and sit on Jalen Waddle, they can't beat us. They have no running game. They don't have a move the chains offense. It's a big play offense. And if we can limit those big plays, we've got the Dolphins. And so now it's time for McDaniel to come up with a counterpoint to that. You've got Mike Gesicki there. You've got Raheem Mostert in a running game. You've got to come up with something. You've got to distribute the ball differently, whether it's running it more or hitting more receivers. We'll see what he does, but we know Belichick is going to have something that's even more than what the 49ers showed you and the Chargers showed you and the Bills showed you and the Packers showed you, because he's Bill freaking Belichick. And this is what he does. This is how he's gotten to the Hall of Fame. So let's see how McDaniel comes up with a counter to whatever Belichick is going to do.
Well, you saw this pretty clearly illustrated with Green Bay, and we've seen it in a few other games in this 4-game losing streak, San Francisco in particular, condensing the middle of the field and anticipating these throws underneath sort of to Hill and Waddle, where they've been dynamite. I mean, they had Waddle with that dynamic play where he goes for 84 yards on one-play drive, and the Dolphins seem to be, in command of that game after Green Bay put a score on the board. You saw this linebacker clearly drift over, knowing that, Tua, who actually telegraphed his pass. I mean, he looked in one direction and then threw the ball, and he just drifted into the spot. It was almost, remember when, was it Keith Byers had gone to the Patriots, and everybody was assuming that he had tipped off the Patriots? This was a common habit of Belichick, which I thought was also one of his genius traits, is he would acquire a guy from the team he was about to play,
Yeah.
and then sit him down with a big light in front of his face and say, tell me everything that they did. And Byers, I guess it was Mike Vrabel that made the interception on a Marino pass where it seemed like Vrabel knew what Marino was going to do long before Marino even had the play sent in. And that's kind of what happened on that second of the 3 interceptions. I know he sailed one on the first pass, and, it seemed to just make an impossibly poor decision on the third one. But linebacker just slides over knowing that this is what he does, and he kind of telegraphed it. And it made you think either this guy is seeing bugs or, that there's something inherently wrong here. All right, let's move on from the Tua thing. And I think you're right. They probably extend him, giving him one more shot, see if he could play a full season and sustain what at times has looked like pure brilliance, as opposed to some of the stuff that we saw there in the fourth quarter of that game against the Green Bay Packers. All right, I'm looking at this, and I was thinking about this. Obviously, Babe Ruth being sold.
It is funny. Perk, coming into the season, we talked with him, didn't think the Dolphins could get to 8.5 wins. Now, he not only thinks that even after 4 losses in a row, he's very confident they'll get it. I think they'll get over 8.5 wins. I thought they'd get to 11 wins. At worst 10. I still think they'll get to 10. And I don't know what to do with Tua. I don't. The play on the field, Defoe's been sort of negative. We've watched Burrow struggle. We've watched Mahomes. All the great quarterbacks have not only a bad game, will have bad stretches. It happens. What he did on the West Coast, what he did in the second half versus the Packers was annoying, but that Bills game was really good. That first half was good. He's been a lot better than he's been bad this season, and he has been a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. He has. So his play on the field, actually, I don't doubt. I'm not happy with that second half because that was on him and McDaniel, but he has played well enough that you would give him the 5th year, maybe extend him. The problem is the injury thing was an issue coming in to the league for a lot of people. Not for me. I thought the hip was a fluke and some of the other things. However, he actually is really good at getting rid of the ball quickly. He doesn't take a lot of hits. That's what's weird. You'll see Burrow take a lot of hits. Yeah, and he broke that ankle that first year, but he hasn't gotten hurt since. Herbert really doesn't miss a lot of time. Allen doesn't miss any time. Yeah, the big, strong quarterback isn't a necessity. But if you're going to be a smaller quarterback, you not only have to get rid of the ball quickly, which Tua does, and you can't take a lot of hits, which Tua does. He does not take a lot of hits. The problem is, when you get hit, you got to be able to get back up. And Tua, what we found, every season, he's going to miss 4 or 5 games. Concussion protocol. Does he have a concussion? I don't know. I really don't know. He didn't feel it till after. They probably won't even possibly diagnose him with a concussion. However, he's had a head injury of some kind. And you would think, like Perk said, he's probably not going to play this week. And he may not play the rest of the year. So that means he's missed another 4 to 5 games this season. So that means every single year he's in the league, he's been in the league, he's missed 4 to 5 games. Look, quarterbacks will miss games here and there. Like Lamar Jackson. And that's been my issue with Lamar Jackson. But it's not assumed they're going to miss a handful of games every year. A franchise elite quarterback is not assumed to miss 5 games every year. Tua sort of is. And that's the question they're going to have going forward. To me, it's not the play. Look, this is year 1 with McDaniel, and the guy set up real numbers where he should have been a Pro Bowler. The issue is injuries. You have to be able to count on that guy, and if you can't count on the guy to play, it's just as important. It matters just as much as playing on the field. So it's going to be a big question for the Dolphins the rest of this season. If they can somehow get to the playoffs, that's great. If Tua can be a part of that, that's amazing. It's still going to be a question, what is his health status, and what do they do going forward? So we will dive further into that as this season goes on. If you want to check us out each and every morning doing our thing, 7 to 9, South Florida Live, The Defo Show with Lubie. Look up either on Google or YouTube, The Defo Show with Lubie or South Florida Live. Check us out on our national podcast with the one and only. Each Thursday, we talk with Brandon Lang, a hilarious handicapper. We mix in some other conversations as well on the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And our South Florida skewed content right here, The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305 453-9066.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.